It's one of those days. It's fine.
Yeah, I guess so.
I have Zero laying on the floor here, and he's just sleeping. He's just sleeping.
Which I can tell he's just sleeping and not awake because I don't hear.
Yeah, his favorite thing to do is pant, so I'm really glad that he's not panting right now.
He's a very panty boy. He's
I
got a
don't
lot
know
of fur
why.
living in Florida.
I love him, but yeah, I don't understand why he's like that.
He's a panty boy.
He is. I love him though. But I have him here. Let's talk about our highs and lows. What was your high of the week and what was your low of the week? How are you doing?
Oh, so I guess I'll start with my low and then go to the high. So that
Yeah,
we can
let's not end on a sad note.
So my low was that I got written up at work the other day for something that was not my fault.
Forgot about that.
Yep. Still salty about it.
Yeah, it was something that was totally not your fault.
Yeah, I guess I'll go into a little bit of detail, but basically, because I work in an ALF, it is government mandated that all personnel who enter the building have to wear a face mask. Okay, that's fine. And all people who work in the building also have to wear a face mask. So I wear a face mask 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. It sucks, but I do it because it is important to wear a face mask. I'm not going to get on a whole freaking soapbox about the face mask, but just wear a face mask. I don't care how uncomfortable you think it is. I wear one for 8 hours a day. You can do it for 30 minutes at the grocery store.
I always say it's not that serious.
So that's fine. We're required to wear face masks. Anybody who enters the building required to wear face masks. Great. I have to screen the people when they come in the building because as my job is I sit at the front desk and I am the receptionist. I'm not very fancy at this ALF that I work at. But I had stepped away from my desk, I think, to go to the bathroom. Probably. I don't really step away from my desk for many reasons, but I think to go to the bathroom. And when I came back from the bathroom, there was a gentleman, a worker from a service provider that we use, and I'm not gonna throw
Say which one.
don't want to throw anybody under the bus. A worker from a service provider that the ALF uses was standing in the lobby being shouted at by my boss. I come to find out that he's not wearing a face mask. So she rounds at me and she's like, "Why was he in the building without a face mask?" And I was like,
"I didn't see him come in."
Really, I was like deer in the headlights. I was like,
you're like, I was taking a shit.
I was like, I don't know. Anyway, so to make a long story short, he leaves the building, whatever. She does that, comes back to me, and is like, I'm really bothered that you let somebody into the building without a face mask. That's a $10,000 fine if state were to walk in. And I was like, he walked in to the building while I was going to the bathroom. Like,
I don't have like Maskdar where I know people aren't wearing masks. Like, I can't tell.
And yeah, it's my job to make sure that people walking into the building are wearing face masks. But like, when you gotta go, you gotta go.
Thing is, like, why did he come into the building with no mask?
Yeah, why didn't he?
Why is it not his fault?
Yeah, right. Most people who come into the building, if I'm not there, they'll wait till I come back.
That's very nice of them and
That
normal.
has been my experience.
I would say most people don't just wander around if they don't see someone to help them. So
yeah. Then she came back and gave that to then. Not my boss, but my coworker calls me back her office, and she reads me a write-up because my coworker had to give me a write-up.
That can't be legal.
I don't know. It was awkward for both of us, and she was like, "You're supposed to get a verbal warning and then a write-up. I don't know why we skipped step 2 in one incident." And I was like, I sat in her office for a good 5 minutes because I didn't want to sign the write-up.
I mean,
and
I don't blame you.
She was like, I don't blame you, but at the same time, like, if you don't sign it, it'll be worse in the long run. And I was like, yeah, but
this isn't fair.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to.
Anyway, so that was my low.
Fair enough low. I would be kind of pissed off too. I'm like, it's not even my fault.
I'm still a little salty about it. I mean, honestly. but whatever, move past it. You know, my high of the week is that on Saturday, right before we went grocery shopping, we went back to my place of employment because one of my coworkers who works Saturdays took her puppy, her basset hound puppy, to work, and he is just
Oh,
the
he was
cutest
so
dog.
floppy, dude.
Oh my god. I have never that was my first time meeting a basset hound. They are so I
They're
love
chill.
him.
They're so
I just
chill.
love yeah. He just kind of and his ears, I guess I learned this on Saturday, but I guess there are American basset hounds and European basset hounds.
What's the
And
difference?
European basset hounds have their bodies are longer and they have way longer ears.
Oh,
So
hell
his
yeah.
ears were legit
Like touching
on
the
the
floor.
floor. It was
Magical. Beautiful.
hysterical.
I just think
I
they're so
loved
cute
him.
when they do
And like
that.
basset hounds, all they have to do is lay there and they're just so fun to laugh at for some reason.
Because they just look wrong.
I
God
just
was
love
like, you know what? I want one of those dogs, but let me real quick fuck them up real fast. It's like Ad Lib on a dog. They were like,
honestly.
how can we make this
I
weird?
guess they were bloodhounds and dachshunds were crossbred and to make basset hounds.
Oh, I painted my nails and it just went everywhere.
No.
No.
That's your low of the week.
Whoa. It's fine. I just dropped the stick.
So yeah, that was my high and low of the week. What was your high and low of the week?
My low.
You just spilled nail polish everywhere. We just
I
established
did.
that.
I feel like there's something. I don't know. I just feeling real mentally exhausted and burnt out. Chronic illness stuff.
Yeah.
Overall, though, like feeling a little bit better, but a lot of it's chronic illness and like planning to move, having to deal with that is a lot. Luckily, I don't have that much stuff to move, so it shouldn't be that bad. But moving in general is just stressful, especially in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
And
No, that was in college. I probably moved every semester
it's
on average.
exhausting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then my
It was in college when I decided that like if my personal belongings, not including furniture, obviously, because I drive a 4-door sedan, but if my personal belongings did not fit in my 4-door sedan in one trip, I
you're
didn't
like
need it.
you're like it's fine. I'm getting rid of it. I don't give
Yeah.
a shit.
So that
I've been
was
getting rid of so much stuff that I just don't need, and I already only have one bedroom, so I don't need all of this stuff. My high is I got Zero back. Zero is my
sweet
fluffy
baby.
son. When I say back, I don't mean like he wasn't that far. I still saw him all the time and had him all the
Right.
time, but my ex and I were just trying to find out when the best time was to get him back, and my ex had to move and he can't have pets in his new apartment. So I finally have Zero full time and it's great. I missed him. He's really derpy, just as derpy as I remember. Me and him took a sick nap earlier together. It was
Yeah.
fantastic.
I also took a nap earlier today.
It was one of those
It
days.
was nice. Ugh.
It's a
I feel like
Sunday.
I nap every weekend.
I do too. I have to. I woke up at 10:30 this morning, and by 12 I was like, "Dang, it's feeling real nappy in here. Gotta take a nap. Feels real tired in here." And Eric's like, "You good?" And I'm like, "No." I started like falling asleep sitting up on the couch. Wow, chronic illness fucking sucks. Number one, but also even if I didn't have chronic illness, it's Sunday and I'm tired.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
So
Yeah, I
it's
get
just
what you're
like
saying.
I gotta listen to my body. If your body is telling you to take a nap and you have no other priorities at that moment, just take the nap.
Take a nap, yeah.
Obviously your body is trying to tell you something. And your
Yeah.
brain and your body repair itself while you're sleeping, so you might as well just take the nap.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
did. I took the nap and it was great. I did have a weird dream though. You know when you're like in the middle of falling asleep and you start having like half dreams? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I was just falling asleep and I had this dream that I was in my car and then I looked to my driver's window and a guy ran up to my window and pulled a gun on me and then
Oh
I
god.
woke up And I
Oh
looked around
no.
and Eric was on his computer and I was like, that was weird. And then I just went right back to sleep. Like
Oh,
it
that's so
barely
terrifying.
phased me. Yeah, that's not the first time I've had dreams like that. I'm like, what is wrong with
Oh
my
yeah.
body? Like, does it think I'm gonna be murdered like every second?
For like years and years and years, I used to only have nightmares. Like I
It's the
didn't
fucking
dream.
worst.
I used to only have, I still have nightmares. I feel like I have nightmares more often than like the average person, but there's no way for me to actually know that. But boy, do I have a lot of nightmares.
Well, we both suffer from
Um,
anxiety, and I feel like that's a big thing is that people with anxiety automatically have more nightmares.
yes. Yeah, that seems correct to me. But yeah, so for a long time, and then I was not taking medication for a really long time. It wasn't until about, I don't know, October and November before I started taking like an antidepressant slash anti-anxiety, and that's when my nightmares started kind of to subside. But it took a very traumatic event for me to actually go to the doctor and be like, I'm not mentally okay.
That's understandable. But definitely, I
Sorry.
mean,
You can cut that out if you want to.
nightmares in general are terrible, but some people are just more susceptible to them, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
everything is going well. Like, got my doggo back. Things are
Yay,
better. I'm
zero.
moving soon. Cleaning, not being a minimalist because that's definitely not any of the shit I have. But
Yeah, but like if you
definitely
don't use
scaling shit
shit,
down,
yeah.
donated a lot of stuff. Like I got rid of probably half of my clothes because they just didn't fit or I just didn't wear them, and someone out there, especially right now with everything going on, might as well give it to someone who will need the clothes, want the clothes, so might as well. So I got rid of a ton of stuff that I didn't need anymore, and I feel a lot better about it. So feel less
Good.
overwhelmed. I'm like, I don't need all these clothes. And some of them I hadn't worn in years. If you haven't worn something in years, get rid of it. You're never gonna put that thing back on. And you're lying to
Yeah.
yourself if you say you are.
Yeah. 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 Thank you for calling me out. I know you didn't do it on purpose, but
It's true though, like it took me
I know.
forever. I had just moved in January and even from then I've collected things or just still haven't worn things where I'm like, okay, girl, you're never wearing this. Just get rid of it.
Yeah, I should go through my closet.
Might as well. But anyways,
This
what do
morning,
you
I
Oh, sorry,
just,
go ahead.
real quick side note. I love my wife. That is why she is my wife.
That
But
is
this
why you
morning,
married her. Ta-da.
we were gonna wash my car, and she was still sleeping. So I went into the bedroom and I was like, "Hey, love, do you want to come help me wash my car?" And she was literally like, "Mm." I was like, "Okay, I guess we're not washing my car today."
You're
And
like,
then
it's not
when
happening.
she actually woke up, I was like, "Nice of you to join me." And she like was like, "What?" And I was like, "You straight up told me you did not want to help me wash my car."
I mean, at least she was honest.
Yeah, she doesn't remember it though. She sleeps like a, I mean, I think a rock does not sleep as heavily as she does.
Why does she sleep so hard?
I have no idea.
I never sleep that hard.
Me neither.
I say, like, I can have
Man,
slight
if
stomach ache, or I could fart and wake myself up. Like, I literally wake up at everything. If something, the wind is a little too windy, I'm like up. Like nothing. Zero stepped on me last night, and I woke up.
yeah, no, if a fly sneezes in the next door neighbor's house, I'm like, "Hello?
Hello,
What?"
who's there? What's going on? I'm scared. Like, I
Yeah,
don't know
like,
why.
well, I used to sleep real hard, but I
Over
think
time.
you want to know what changed. What changed was that
Mm-hmm.
Brandy Lynn was born, and
Oh, when you
they
had to
always
take care of
say,
her.
yeah, what they always say, like when you're a mother, you stop sleeping real heavily because you're just attuned to like the sound of the baby. Well, I'm not like her biological mom, but I just immediately became attuned to the sound of the baby. And ever since then, like if the
Your body's like,
dogs like
oh my god.
shift, yeah, if the dogs shift in their crate, because it's like that plasticky scratch sound, because anytime we try to get them a bed, they just chew it apart.
Oh
So
my
they just sleep
god.
in the bear crate.
That's
Fine.
just, you're like, fine, just fucking do what you want, you crazy
Yeah.
assholes.
Yeah. I mean,
I
man,
forgot to tell you this story. And
oh, okay.
I want to bring it up on the podcast only because I think it's hilarious. So,
Okay. Tell me.
the first night of adjusting, so for context, my boyfriend Eric has a cat. His name is Wes. He is all
Mhm.
black. He is a beautiful boy. But he's a scaredy cat.
I love Wes.
Literally the definition of scaredy cat. Zero
Prompto's the same way.
was here. Plus, Zero's adjusting to an apartment that he's never been in before, etc. So we have a baby gate in front of the door, and
which you mentioned last week.
yeah, which is great. It works well because Zero kind of is a little bit nosy and gets into things that he shouldn't. And while he's adjusting, we thought it was good. One, for Zero and Wes not to always be on top of each other. Wes can escape the room if he really feels uncomfortable.
Right.
So Eric and I are sleeping, or trying to sleep. The door's a little bit cracked open with the baby gate up. So there was a plastic bag on the floor, and it was super crinkly, and Wes was all up in it, and his head was in it, and all we could hear was crinkle, 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 and I was just like, oh my god.
Yeah, as cats do.
Yeah, so I told Eric, I was like, I think your cat's in the bag. So he gets up, and he picks up the Hot Topic bag, and unfortunately, Wes is so much of a scaredy cat that he jumps back. But when he jumps back into Zero. Then he flips. He flips out. He got so startled. This cat ran. Instead of going under or over the baby gate, he went through it. He flew at it so hard that it knocked it out of the door frame. And we couldn't find him for like 5 minutes. He fucking was so embarrassed. The fucking baby gate was hanging on by one like foot on the door. He hit it so hard that he closed the closet door right next to it. That's how hard he hit it. And he scared the shit out of David. David opened his door and he was like, I thought someone passed out. Because he knows that I pass out because of my condition. And he was just like, I thought you fell in the hallway. I was like, I'm so sorry. Wes is just so stupid. It was like 5 a.m. It was so late at night. And it was in the middle of a work night. And this cat just fucking went for it, man. It was really funny.
Wes.
He's fine. Amazing. We checked him because it sounded like he hurt himself. But we checked him. He's totally fine. He's just really stupid. So
yeah,
Zero and Wes are just stupid together. Honestly,
do they get along though?
They do. It's funny though. So they haven't played yet, but they've tried to. The issue is, so they can get really close to each other, but sometimes, at least in the last little bit of time, it seems like Wes is totally okay with Zero because he turns his back to Zero, which is something a cat would not do if they weren't comfortable.
Would not do. Yeah.
So the only time he seems to get really upset with Zero is if Zero runs at him or breathes directly in his face because Zero has hot garbage breath.
I get upset when Zero breathes in my face too. But his breath smells like asshole.
Yeah. So Wes gets a little offended, but there was this one time where Zero wasn't doing jack shit. He was just sniffing the carpet on the other side of the room, and just Wes like trotted up to him and thwapped him right across the face, and Zero went like he just didn't understand. But other than that, like most of the time, Wes just hisses at him, and Zero backs the fuck up.
We got Freya in November, and the cats are still terrified of her. If there is anybody who listens to this podcast who has any suggestions on how to get because here's the thing, Freya for the most part doesn't care about the cats except for when they hiss at her, which when she walks into the room, she like sees them and she wants to go like sniff at them, but she's 60 pounds of Belgian Malinois and they are 10 pounds of tiny cat. That's scary. I get that to them. So they run under the bed. And then she'll kind of like sniff around the bed, but if she lays down on the floor, they'll just hiss and growl at her, even though she's not doing anything.
Poor girl. She's like, I'm just here.
Yeah, and so those sounds make her want to like know what's going on. Like, why is there noise coming from the box spring? Because the cats have cut a hole in the bottom of the box spring to be able to get into the box spring,
which I'm sure you're loving.
Oh, I'm so happy about it. And so they're okay with Merlin when it's just Merlin in the room.
To be fair, Merlin's a gentle boy.
Yes. Merlin always just puts his butt up to everything. The cats are always like, because he like, I think it's like a submissive thing. Merlin like turns around and like shows his butt to the cats. And the cats are always like backing up, side-eyeing me, like, why are you showing me your butt?
Is this a defense mechanism? Is something going to shoot out of his butthole? Should I be worried?
So the cats are okay with Merlin. It's a work in progress, but man, I am so frustrated. I'm at my wit's end with how to get these cats to like. If Freya gets a chance to like sniff at them, that's all she wants to do, and then she's fine. So if anybody who listens to this podcast
Has
has
any
any
suggestions?
suggestions,
Please.
please,
Same
I
with
need it.
Zero and West. Like they're better, but they're not perfect. But it's only been a couple days.
Yeah, no, I've had Freya since November.
Yeah, exactly.
It's June.
Yeah.
So I'm at my wit's end. It's driving me crazy. But yeah, so if
Anyways,
anybody's
sorry,
got
I had to
suggestions.
side note that story because I thought it was fucking hilarious that he ran straight into the BB gate.
Mm-hmm.
It was really funny. We should have. We
Amazing.
laughed really hard, which made it
Mm-hmm.
even more confusing, I'm sure, for David.
Mm-hmm.
Because he came out and he was just like, "Why are you guys laughing?" And we were like, "Wes jumped into the gate, and it's so fucking hard, dude." But anyways,
Oh
now
my
that we've
goodness.
gone on 50,000 tangents,
Yeah.
what do you got for me today, Angel?
Well, we're gonna start with our cool person of color of the week, right? I've got one,
Yes.
you've got one.
Who
So
wants to go first?
I'll go first if you want me to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so that way we're just trading off the whole episode, I guess. Whatever.
That works.
So I don't know if you've heard, but the company Aunt Jemima, they are retiring that brand and image. Uncle Ben, Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben, other
Mm-hmm.
brands are revising their logos and their characters, and they're acknowledging that their
Maybe don't have
branding,
that.
yeah, that their branding has racist roots and things like that. So I'm actually going to talk about the woman, the original woman behind Aunt Jemima. Her name is Nancy Green.
Okay, cool.
She was super cool. She was born in November of 1834, but she was born into slavery, unfortunately. In 1890, she had been hired by the R.T. Davis Milling Company in Missouri to represent quote unquote Aunt Jemima, which was an advertising character for the pancake, you know, the mix, the syrup, the
Mm-hmm.
butter, the stuff like that. She was the very first portrait of Aunt Jemima. But she was actually like a super badass, apparently. So Nancy Green was like a super badass when she was introduced as Aunt Jemima at it's called the World Columbian Exposition in Chicago. She became like an instant hit. And from then on, she had been offered a job, like a paid job
Dang.
to kind of be the face of pancakes and make pancakes and come up with pancake recipes and things like and syrup recipes and things like that. She was offered a lifetime contract to adopt the Aunt Jemima moniker, and she did. She went around the world, and she was also like during this time, because this was during the time when slavery was at its end, she was promoting the ability for Black people to be able to have paid jobs, and she was one of the very first people who was working against racism, I guess. Maybe not one of the first people, but she was definitely one of the first faces
In a
of
long
Black,
time.
yeah, for Black advocacy. But apparently she had maintained her job with the Davis Milling, which was renamed the Aunt Jemima Mills Company in 1914. And her primary occupation for the company was a housekeeper after a certain amount of time. So she was a super cool. I love like, this is just a very short, I mean, because we don't have time to do a whole a whole episode about the stories of these people, but I just want to highlight some important people of color in history, and Nancy Green is one of them. So if you want to read up more about her, you could look her up.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
I've heard some of her, like, about it before, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
Definitely look it up. More info. Way more info. But yeah, we're just highlighting people. That is important because
Mm-hmm.
I am a person of color, and Angel is obviously a supporter of people of color.
I am very white Hispanic lady.
It's okay, though. You're doing your part.
Mm-hmm.
My person that I'm going to be covering is actually, I'm going to be talking about Katherine Johnson. This article that I'm going to be reading verbatim, just because it says it better than I could, is theundefeated.com, which they're doing the 44 most influential Black Americans in history.
And I'll definitely post a link to that in the show notes.
Absolutely. So, Katherine Johnson, every American kid by the time he or she reaches fourth grade, has studied the important history of this country's space missions. The significance of NASA being able to send John Glenn around the Earth 3 successful times is well documented, well reported on, and appropriately looked at as one of the most important gains in air and space. The critical nugget that was always missing was the unseen black female force that helped him get there. Thankfully, we now know better. Katherine Johnson, who was 98, was a physicist and mathematician who helped launch the first use of digital electronic computers at NASA, the independent federal government agency that handles aerospace, research, aeronautics, and the civilian space program. Her wisdom with numbers and accuracy was highly regarded that her sign off was paramount for NASA to modernize itself with digital computers. Be clear, Johnson wasn't alone. Many other black women were hired by NASA in the early 1950s to work in the guidance and navigation department. Johnson came on board in 1953, a year before the civil rights movement kicked into high gear, and she initially worked in a pool of black women who were all performing math calculations. But it was Johnson who was plucked out of the pool to work with an all male flight research team, and it was Johnson who helped calculate the orbit for the 1969 Apollo 11 flight to the moon, and it was Johnson who co authored 26 scientific papers, which NASA still links to via its archives. Her story, our story, was told in grand Hollywood fashion. Oscar nominated actor and Golden Globe winner Taraji P. Henson brought her to life in the big screen in the critically acclaimed Hidden Figures, which I have seen. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
Yes, it's very good.
Super good. And Henson boldly helped to tell a story that so many of us never knew existed. And finally, Johnson is a genius, or was a genius. Unfortunately, she has passed away since this article came out. She did pass away this year.
Mm-hmm.
She was 98, lived a
Yeah,
very long life. She did a lot of
very good
amazing
life.
things. She was a math prodigy who was 14 years old when she graduated from high school, 18 years old when she earned a double degree in math and French from West Virginia State College, and she helped to integrate the graduate school at West Virginia University, where she was one of 3 black students and the only woman after a Supreme Court ruling. So she
What
has
a
the story
freaking
worth telling.
badass.
Yeah. And
I love her.
in 2015, President Barack Obama awarded Johnson the Presidential Medal of Freedom for her pioneering work that led black women to work in science, technology, and engineering and mathematics. So, definitely a person worth noting. Someone that definitely didn't get talked about as much until that movie came out, unfortunately. But total badass. Look up pictures of her. She has like pictures of her with these giant fucking stacks of papers that she did herself, and it's fucking awesome.
That movie was so inspiring to me, and
Being like,
I
shit,
just,
I can
yeah.
do anything. We just
Anyway,
wanted to highlight people of color as this is a very important time in our lives, and hopefully some change happens. But
yeah, yeah. And I think that this is a good, because we talk about wanting to be able to throw some positivity in the world, but still making a difference. I think using our platform to be able to raise awareness about charities and other things that are helping improve the Black Lives Movement, not improve, but support the Black Lives Movement is important. But I also want to use our platform to be able to highlight important people whose stories we would not know otherwise.
absolutely.
Like the Aunt Jemima situation, I heard about it on the radio, and that's kind of actually that's when I got the idea with Nancy Green. They had talked about her on the radio. They talked about how Aunt Jemima was retiring that branding, and they talked about Nancy Green. And I was like, why don't we, you and I, use our platform to
To share
bring to light some
awareness.
stories that people would not know otherwise?
Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous that we didn't learn about any of this shit in school or
Hmm.
ever. So definitely want to bring awareness to it. But thanks for
Yeah,
listening, y'all. What story do you have for me today? I'm super excited.
and now this is the meat of the main, the reason we have a podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
So I had done these notes like a long time ago, and actually, it was right at the very beginning at the start of the pandemic. I was really excited about them. I was doing these notes while I was kind of at the beginning of doing notes for the Biltmore Hotel. And I was like, I'm just going to hang on to these notes until we see each other in person.
But that's
But I
probably
don't
not going to
know.
be anytime soon.
I don't know if that's going to happen, unfortunately. So I had started notes for this week, and then you and I were both like, maybe let's put a pin in those. So let's go ahead and talk about another topic that I was really excited to tell you about, so much so that I wanted to wait till we saw each other in person. It's called Villa Paula, Miami's most haunted house.
Oh, okay. I've never heard this.
No, me neither. It's kind of, I don't want to say it's obscure because it's not, because when you really look into it, there's just Villa Paula is everywhere. But I had not heard about it before I started working on notes for Biltmore. And you start doing notes for one thing and you can fall into 80 different rabbit holes if you're not careful.
It's so true.
So this was one of the rabbit holes that I fell into when I very initially, like I said, this was back in March when I started these notes. So
It's been a
my
long
source,
time.
I've been sitting on these for a really long time. So my sources are VillaPaulaMiami.com, New York Post, Miami New Times, an article from 2008 from the Biscayne Times, Casesburg Real Estate,
Okay.
and I listened to an episode of Ghost Magnet with Bridget Marked, which it was the November 25th, 2019 episode.
Okay.
So we'll get there. So Villa Paula is located at 5811 North Miami Avenue in Little Haiti, and it was built in 1925. It's a 4-lot assemblage, which I don't really know what that means, and it's roughly 2,552 square feet of property. And back in the May of 2018, it was valued at about $4.5 million.
Oh shit.
That's a lot of money. It's really pretty. Like if you look up like pictures of Villa Paula, it's very pretty to look at. So I can understand why it's like $1 million house. At the time of its construction, it had 10 rooms, 2 large bathrooms, 18-foot high ceilings, hand-painted floor tiles, and visually grand Tuscan columns in the front. It was constructed all from Cuban materials, imported from Cuba by Cuban laborers, and designed by a Cuban architect. Yeah, so it's very Cuban inspired, Cuban homegrown, Cuban homemade. Everything was Cuban, even down to the people who built it. So at the time of its construction, it cost about $40,000 to build, which in today's money is about $600,000.
I mean, they really did. I'm looking at some pictures of it, but yes.
It's very grand. It is widely believed and kind of circulated that Villa Paula was built originally as a Cuban consulate, which is the home of like a foreign consul who is, do you know what a consul is?
It's like a person of power, right?
Kind of. It's here, I'll just read you the definition I wrote. It's a person who has been appointed by a government to live in a foreign city and protect and promote the government's citizens and interests in that city.
Okay.
So at the time, the consul was General Domingo Milord, and the house that they lived in, the Villa Paula, was not technically a consulate. It was not built for a consulate. He built his house privately to live in Miami as the consul, but he built it privately for him and his wife, Paula. But because he was the consul, they did a lot of consulate business in his house.
Understandably so.
They moved into that house from Key West.
And okay.
They were both in their 50s at the time. So as the story goes, Domingo loved his wife so much that shortly after moving into their new home, he named it Villa Paula and adorned the front of the house with the name in large stucco letters, and it's still there like to this day. In life, Paula was known to be a talented pianist and brewed and enjoyed seemingly endless Cuban coffee, tended to the bushes of her favorite flower, which were roses, and always wore floor-length dresses and skirts, which is...
What time period is this?
This was in the 1920s. So 1920s.
Okay, that makes sense.
And the roses and the long skirts is very abuela-esque.
Yeah, that's why I was like, oh, but they're in their 50s, so that's not that weird.
Yeah. So after Paulo's death, it is said that supposedly Domingo buried her in a white stone sarcophagus in the backyard.
Supposedly.
Right. So this is, we're going to take a little detour into the supposedly little mystery surrounding the remains of Mrs. Milord. In the backyard of the gardens, there is a sarcophagus-looking thing. If you look at pictures of Villa Paula sarcophagus, you can see that a ficus tree has kind of overtaken it, overgrown. It's actually really pretty to look at. It's eerie and also pretty at the same time. But the mystery here is that there is some speculation and debate about whether or not Paula's remains are actually buried there. So Little Haiti, which was then called Lemon City.
What?
Yep.
Lemon City?
Lemon City, like little yellow citrus fruit.
All right then.
So Little Haiti city records and Miami-Dade County records show that Paula and Domingo moved out of the consulate in 1930, but Paula wouldn't pass until 2 years later and in the hospital due to complications from an amputation.
Oh, that
Mm-hmm.
went from 0 to 100 very quick.
Yeah. Public death records and contemporary obituaries state that she was buried in Miami's Woodlawn Cemetery. However, if you go to her supposed plot number, which was, I wrote it down, it's number 1115 in section 27, there's no headstone.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
weird.
But the groundskeeper insists 100%, quote unquote, she's here 120%. We have thousands of plots here with no markers. Well, that leaves a lot of questions unanswered. Why is there a sarcophagus in Villa Paula's backyard?
Yeah.
And why would she, if she's not buried in the backyard, why would she be buried in an unmarked grave in
Yeah, that's just weird.
in the Woodlawn Cemetery? Because Domingo Milord was a consulate, so he was a very wealthy man. And that means that Paula was a very wealthy woman because they were married, obviously.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
why would she be buried in an unmarked plot? It doesn't make any sense. So some of the explanations are as follows. She could have been exhumed and moved to rest next to him in his grave after he died in November of 1937. The trouble with that is in the cemetery he is allegedly buried at, which is historic Key West Cemetery, there is no headstone at his gravesite either.
What the fuck?
Right, which again suggests kind of like a pauper's grave, and as a consulate, he was anything
There's
but
no
a
way.
pauper.
I was gonna say.
The other possibility is that General Domingo Milord and Paula Milord were transported to the Cementerio de Constable Colon in Havana, which is the final resting place of many important people in Cuba.
That would make sense.
Right, because at around that time in the 1930s, refrigerated train transport was introduced to like the public, and so it made sense for their bodies to have been moved to Cuba. The only trouble is there's no record of that either one of them are buried in that cemetery either. Another possibility that exists is that Paula was buried in the same cemetery that her father was buried in Havana, but again, no records indicate whether or not she's been buried there. And unfortunately, there isn't much more left on the matter. And what little is left, I'll probably get to in just a minute. But the fact is that she is not likely to be buried in the sarcophagus in the back of Villa Paula, despite the fact that local legend still holds that she is buried back there. We'll hop back on track. Stories of Paula and Domingo are generally told like a tragic love story of a wife who passed before her husband. But according to more recent residents, a Mr. Joe Chirichigno, I think, he believes that Domingo and Paula, their marriage was not as happy as everybody likes to think it is.
Gotcha.
He's under the impression that Paula actually moved out of Villa Paula and left Domingo in 1930. She later injured her leg and had to have it amputated and then died from complications from that amputation, like I mentioned earlier, but that was in 1932. Contrary to popular stories that Paula died in the house, she actually died in Jackson Memorial Hospital in Miami. After Domingo moved out, the next resident who lived there was a woman by the name of Muriel Reardon, and she lived there for the next 30 years until her death. She had 3 daughters, and most stories report that Muriel did not report any supernatural or paranormal activity in the house, but her 3 daughters all said that for the whole time that they lived in that house,
They're like mom's full of shit.
Well, no. They all said that their mom, there was 4 bedrooms in the house, like I said, and one of the bedrooms was closed off because her mom just had like a weird feeling about the room. She didn't like the room. Nobody was allowed in the room. That door was locked, sealed, closed to everybody, including the family that lived there. While Reardon never publicly reported paranormal activity, the daughters think that their mom like picked up on something. So Reardon's grandson, his name is Dr. Lord Lee Benner, and he was a retired anti-aging doctor. Lived in the house. Yeah, I don't.
You know, one of those.
Yeah, he lived in the house with Muriel and his mother, who was one of the daughters, in the 40s and 50s. And he actually notes, like in an interview that I read, he notes that that sarcophagus structure was not there when he lived here during his childhood. He maintains that Paula is not buried there, and whatever that structure is was built after he moved out of the house.
Understandably so.
So, in the early 2000s, fashion designer Fernando Garcia rented the villa for 3 years. He suspects that that sarcophagus in the backyard is like just a shrine honoring a saint, which is very on brand with Cuban culture.
Yeah.
This is a quote from him. "The box doesn't have a removable lid and is too small for an adult," he said, and would often tell people as much. But many visitors would still want to pray at what they thought was Paula's grave anyway.
Okay.
Oh well.
He tried.
Right. And my next note here is, even though I touched on it, it's not uncommon to see like shrines and statues to Mother Mary or different saints around like Cuban like households. That's just part of the Cuban culture.
Hmm.
After Reardon, the home passed through several hands and was even dubbed an official historic site by the city of Miami in 1983, before being bought by a businessman by the name of Richard Siskind, who transformed it into an art gallery in 2005. Now we're going to get to the ghosts. Enough history.
The
Now the
spooks.
ghosts. The first person to report paranormal activity was a gentleman by the name of Cliff Esnor, Esnor. And I will probably say Ensor from here on out. Because
Just make it way easier.
yeah. Well, I won't do it on purpose, but Esner's experiences include the following. Silverware and dishes would inexplicably be thrown from cabinets and shelves, and one of the very large chandeliers, one of the only ones that's still original to the estate, suddenly fell from the ceiling on the front porch.
What the fuck?
He reported hearing sounds of heels clicking through the halls, the smell of coffee being brewed when there was no coffee being brewed, and the sound of a piano being played, though there had not been a piano on the premises in many years.
Interesting.
Bedroom doors would slam shut, though there was no evidence of a draft or breeze through the house. It is said that Paula would close the bedroom door to prevent her shoulders getting cold when she would go to practice the piano. So
Oh, interesting.
that makes sense, yeah. After the beds were made, he would return to find the covers turned down as though they were being readied for someone to go to bed. He said that he would hear steady knocking on the front door every once in a while. When he went to answer it, there would be nobody there. He reported that he'd hear the sound of heavy footsteps coming up the back steps when he was alone in the house, and no one ever entered. Oh, I forgot about this.
Oh no.
At one point, he had 3 cats that lived with him, and some articles claim that a very large, heavy gate slammed shut and killed one of the cats.
Oh.
And other articles say that that incident happened to all 3 of the cats.
Oh no. That's really
Yeah.
terrible.
He said that he would often smell the scent of roses all year long, even though roses are not in season for but a very short time. He said, "Only twice did I ever have a near face-to-face encounter with anything paranormal. One time, he saw an indistinct shadowy form in the house that evaporated before he could get a good look at it, and the other time, a very distinct vision of a woman with dark hair pulled into a tight bun wearing a flowy dress or skirt in the hallway before she simply disappeared."
Interesting. Did people die in the house though?
I don't think so, but
That's so weird.
because Paula did not die in the house. She died in the hospital because of the leg amputation. But you can be attached to the specific location if it was a place you were very fond of. And
I
it
guess that's
said
true.
that, and then it said that Paula was very fond of the house. It was very precious to her. So
It was important to her.
yeah, so it doesn't surprise me that if she does haunt the house, that she
Picked that place.
yeah, if she is going to haunt somewhere, it was this place that she decided. Esner invited psychics and mediums, including Reverend Emma Hanadrick, who used to lead a church of psychical science and Christianity, into his house on numerous occasions. And while their experiences all varied, the one constant was that they all claimed that there were 5 spirits who occupied the house. One spirit, obviously, is Mrs. Paula Millord, who never outright stated her name, but said she loved the smell of roses, cumin coffee, and to play music from Carmen on the piano. One person fits that description in this story.
Exactly.
The other spirits are a tall, thin man in a top hat who doesn't say anything, but is the friendly, quiet kind of person. There is a heavy-set woman in a red dress who is suspected to be Mrs. Muriel Reardon, because in life she was known to despise cats, and the spirit also despises cats. A woman who cries because allegedly she lost something valuable in the gardens.
Interesting.
A very distressed woman who is looking for the burial place of her illegitimate child. And the 5th spirit is assumed to be that illegitimate child.
Oh, that's so sad.
As far as who those ghosts are or why they're there, I literally typed in anything I could think of to get answers for that, but I
And you
could
could not.
Yeah, the only thing I could gauge was Paula and Muriel Reardon. So I don't know who those other 3 people are. It's possible that were attached to the land before the estate was built on it,
Yeah,
but
that's
again,
what I was
that's
thinking.
completely conjecture on my part. Esner sold the estate in 1987, and between then and the early 2000s, it was a private residence, a home for the elderly, and a doctor's office until fashion designer Fernando Garcia moved in and rented the home for about 3 years. Garcia is a skeptic. I don't believe in ghosts, he says, but strange things do happen in that house. One day, when he was sitting at a desk, a window pane inexplicably fell from a window behind him, and when he got up to take a look at that, a 40-pound chunk of plaster fell from the ceiling onto the desk and chair where he had been sitting only moments before.
Oh, that's nice. Love that.
He said, "If I hadn't moved when I did, I'd be dead." And he maintains that it was just fortunately timed coincidence, but he thinks that if there were ghosts in the house, they must like him to help him stay alive.
Yeah, honestly, what the fuck?
Garcia, like and Esner, would hear knocking at the front door and sounds of thumps on the walkway in the back of the house. And similarly to Esner's experience, his cat disappeared the day after he brought her home, but he said, "I didn't find her dead, I just never found her."
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah,
That's somehow worse.
yeah, that
Because
would
you're
be so
like, what
sad.
happened?
I like to think that maybe the cat just ran away from the negative energy.
Yeah, the cat was like, you seeing this shit? I'm out.
Yeah, really.
I'm gone.
Nice big swig of wine.
I'm drinking moonshine, so I can't fucking say anything.
That's fine. One of the articles that I read mentioned that Garcia had a friend who was sensitive to the spirit world and would visit, and she would start crying when she entered what used to be the maids' quarters and said they used to beat the maids here.
Oh.
That was the only information that was the only article. I can't
About
even
what
remember.
would be
Yeah.
torturing these poor ghosts.
I can't even remember which article from my sources that I read that anymore because it was so long ago I did that.
That's
But
so sad.
that's the only article I could find that information in. I wrote that in my
Jeez.
notes. I don't know who they are. I don't know what made. So you can
But
take that with a
still,
grain of salt
if
if you
that's
like.
true, that's so sad.
Sometime after Garcia lived there, an artist by the name of Joe Chirichigno, I think is how you say his name, lived there in the villa for about 6 months and remained an artist with the studio at the estate. He admitted that he had some bizarre experiences at Villa Paula, but was reluctant to give too many details for fear of his information harming credibility of his work. He did say during the time that his art studio was housed there, many psychics, mediums, and paranormal investigators came knocking at the door to investigate the house. This is a quote from him. "They always told me there's a spirit of a dead baby in here," and I guess he would just point to the bathroom.
What the fuck?
So, despite that he didn't want to talk about his own experiences, this is where we get into the Ghost Magnet. In November of 2019, he appeared in the podcast Ghost Magnet with Bridget Marked alongside David Pierce Rodriguez. And I'll make sure that I put a link in case anybody wants to listen to it. But I'll go over some of the details right now. First 20 minutes or so is like Bridget talking to them about like what they do, what their art is, how they came to be. But in the meat of the podcast, Joe starts off by saying, "People always ask, is Valhalla haunted?" And I say, "Well, it's not haunted in the stereotypical sense. I never wanted to run out of here screaming in terror, but this is a very mysterious place." Absolutely.
Interesting.
The first story he tells is a story of how when the house was having its roof replaced, he actually fell off the roof and broke his leg in 4 places.
Oh.
The story came on because Rodriguez had asked him to tell the story about it because it's important a little bit later. But he falls off the roof, breaks his leg in 4 places, and he just thinks about like how surreal it is that he's in this house. His leg is broken. He's in a wheelchair. His injured leg is the same leg that Paula lost, and
Ooh.
when
She
he
was
came
like,
from
if I'm suffering, you're suffering.
when he came home from the hospital, the large gate to the driveway was already open, which is not normal for him. And some guy gets out of his car and makes a beeline for Joe and says, "I know this house. Strange things happen here. Any ladders fall off the roof recently?" And yes, a ladder had fallen off the roof. That's how he broke his leg in 4 places.
Oh, man.
After that, the guy in the black BMW just left, and Joe never saw him again.
He was like, you hear that, y'all? Goodbye. Fuck all y'all.
So I guess after a couple of months, he starts to heal and he starts to be able to use his wheelchair less and less. And he starts to use like a walker and a cane. And I guess very old antique cane fell right out of the tree in the backyard. The ficus
Why
tree in
was
the
it up
backyard.
there? Who put
I
that
don't.
up there?
Yeah. Yeah, that's and he kept the cane after all this time. It was like almost the perfect size for him, and it fell out the day that he started to like, relearn how to walk. And so he just kind of thinks that
That's
maybe this was Paula's way of being like, here, let me help you learn to walk again. Isn't that wild?
so weird.
Yeah. He goes on to talk about how NBC News came and filmed in the house for several hours, and then while they were filming, the cameras just kept dying. Even though the batteries had been charged, the cameras were plugged in, the cameras just stopped working.
Oh, that's not a good sign.
Yeah, yeah. So the next day, when the segment aired on NBC, they did I guess they did a whole thing about Rodriguez's art studio, and at the very end, like as an afterthought, they were like, "Oh yeah, and this place is haunted."
Oh,
Well, I
yeah,
guess
just
the
throw
day
that in
after,
there.
yeah. So I guess the day after that, CBS, NBC again, Telemundo, the Miami Herald, Univision, New York Times, everybody showed up because they wanted to see.
They're like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah, yeah. And so Villa Paula at that point, and I don't remember what year he said again, and I didn't write it down again because I listened to this forever ago. But I guess for that, in that week, Villa Paula kind of became like national news.
I mean, fair enough.
I can
Some
imagine
weird
like all
shit
of
was
those
going
news.
on.
I can't imagine all of those news things coming to you because, like, how exhausting would that be to just constantly have people come into your house all the time?
I'd be like, I just want to sleep.
Yeah,
This
no,
is
I
my
don't.
house. I didn't choose this.
Yeah, I don't. I'm exhausted just thinking about
That's like how the
it.
people with like Amity and they were like, please just leave us alone. We're fucking
Mhm.
tired.
He then goes in to talk about how he ended up moving into Villa Paula. A friend of his who worked for a real estate company that owned Villa Paula at the time suggested that he move there and have his art studio there because the one that he was working in was starting to close down.
What a
So,
weird place to want to have your art studio.
well, it's big. Like if you're gonna live there and have an art studio, I mean, it's a beautiful place. If you're gonna have a studio and a gallery, like Villa Paula would be the place to do it.
So weird though. I'd be like, I'm good.
So this is a quote from him again. The first time that I came in here, meaning Villa Paula, I walked
Mhm.
through the house and it had been closed up for a while. There was no electricity, no running water. It was late at night, and I walked through the house with the light from my phone. And I walked through every room. And I don't claim to be a psychic or paranormal person or a ghost hunter, but I walked through the house and I walked in that back bedroom, and it just made me uncomfortable for no reason. It's just I didn't want to be here. So, and that was
Fair
the room
enough.
that baby allegedly died in. So,
Oh, that would do
um,
it.
that bathroom that I had just mentioned is connected to the bedroom, and he just says that he doesn't want to be in that room ever. It's like a
Right.
normal bathroom and a normal bedroom, but he just something feels off
He's like,
about
no,
it.
thank you.
Yeah. He said something about the way you look in the mirror. It just seems wrong.
Oh.
I don't like mirrors.
I would say
Ugh.
I hate mirrors. Like the people that have vanities in their room, I'm sorry, but you're a psychopath.
I mean, we have a mirror in our bedroom,
You're a
but
psychopath.
I
I don't
know.
know what it is. It just like freaks me out.
I literally never look at it,
It
especially not
just
in the middle of the night.
freaks me out. I don't, yeah, I would say mirrors are really creepy and there's just
Mm-hmm.
a lot of weird energy in mirrors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I've
I
always
don't.
had really bad experiences with
I'm pretty
mirrors.
sure I've said this in a previous episode. Maybe I haven't, but I cannot look in a mirror at night. Like if I have to get up to go to the bathroom, if I'm
Me
washing my hands,
neither.
I look
I don't
into
look
the.
up.
Yeah, I can't do it. Nope.
I thought I was the only one that did that.
Nope. I can't look into a mirror, especially at night. Yeah.
It's a dead.
So that's mostly all I have. He goes into more stories, but I don't want to recount somebody's podcast in my podcast because that kind of.
That's weird, yeah.
Yeah. So I will leave a link to the episode in the show notes if you want to go and listen to the rest of it yourself. But yeah, that is the story of Villa Paula.
It's amazing. Thank you
Mm-hmm.
for sharing. It seems just like a place that probably has a really terrible energy,
Yeah.
and like that's the biggest thing,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but it's still weird. Yeah, so today have a couple different things today, mostly just cuz again, we're in the middle of a pandemic and there's not a lot going on as much as we would,
Yeah.
expect. But I have a couple different things. Number 1, PlayStation has made 5 popular PS4 games $5 or less for a limited time, and I'm going to go over that. So,
Tell
first
me which
one,
one.
Outlast. I fucking love Outlast. If you've never heard of it, so I'm reading this off of comicbook.com, who wrote the article, but I will read the pitch of the game. If you've never heard of Outlast, it's fucking amazing. It's very creepy, very cool. If you like PT, Silent Hill, stuff like that, this game is right up your alley. Have you ever seen Outlast?
Didn't the Grumps do it?
Maybe? I don't know because I don't think they normally play very scary games. The only scary
Well,
game
they
I saw the
did.
Grumps do was PT.
Yeah, they did PT. I thought they did Silent Hill.
They might
Um,
have, but I don't think they've
they
done
did.
Outlast.
They did Doki Doki Literature Club.
Outlast is really gory.
Okay.
Like
Yeah,
PT
Doki
and stuff
Doki.
isn't super gory, but Doki Doki
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
But it takes a bit
Okay.
to get there. Outlast is just gross from the beginning. Like
Oh, okay. I don't know then. I have heard of it. I just have never played it.
so the pitch for the game on Comic Book's website is in the remote mountains of Colorado, horrors wait inside Mount Massive Asylum, a long abandoned home for the mentally ill, recently reopened by the research and charity branch of the transnational Murkoff Corporation. The asylum has been operating in strict secrecy until now. Acting on a tip from an anonymous source, independent journalist Miles Upshur breaks into the facility, and what he discovers walks a terrifying line between science and religion, nature, and something else entirely. Once inside, his only hope of escape lies within the terrible truth at the heart of Mount Massive. The price right now is $3.99, and this game was huge when it came out.
Isn't Outlast 2 based on the Johnstown Massacre? Jonestown Massacre. Oh, it's based off of MK Ultra.
Oh,
It's
okay.
yeah, it's a story based on MK Ultra.
What,
The
Outlast
Outlast
1 or 2?
1. Yeah, Outlast 1. Outlast
Okay.
2 is definitely a just yeah, Outlast 2 is based on the Jonestown Massacre.
I
Okay.
haven't played Outlast 2, so I wouldn't have known.
Okay.
The second
So,
game is Onrush, is a new breed of high-impact, adrenaline-fueled off-road arcade racing. It's about speed, takedowns, and teamwork with high-tempo thrills that focus on the fun, the excitement, and the spectacular. It is $4.99. The other
another
game,
game.
Resident Evil 1.
Oh, really?
For $4.99. In 1998, a Special Forces team is sent to investigate some bizarre murders on the outskirts of Raccoon City. Upon arriving, they are attacked by a pack of bloodthirsty dogs and are forced to take cover in a nearby mansion. But the scent of death hangs heavy in the air. Supplies are scarce as they struggle to stay alive. I love this game, and it's
I
only
was just
$4.99.
I was just laughing to myself because my brain was like, if she don't know what Resident Evil 1 is, she's too young for you, son.
Oh, that's the thing is like I'm reading it, but also Resident Evil is like a very popular game.
Yeah, if somebody doesn't know what Resident Evil is, like at least the name,
Where
she's
have
too
they
young
been?
for you. Yeah.
The next game is Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition. Welcome to Hong Kong, a vibrant neon city teeming with life, whose exotic locations and busy streets hide one of the most powerful and dangerous criminal organizations in the world, the Triads. In this open world game, play the role of Wei Shen, an undercover cop trying to take down the Triads from the inside out. You'll have to prove yourself worthy as you fight your way up to the organization, taking part in brutal criminal activities without blowing your cover. Torn between your loyalty to the badge and a criminal code of honor, you will risk everything as the lines between truth, loyalty, and justice become permanently blurred. The price is $4.99, and then I think the last game is Zombie Army Trilogy. I've never heard of this.
Yeah, me neither.
The pitch is experience gut wrenching third person horror and intense co op action from the creators of Sniper Elite 3. In the dying flames of World War II, Hitler has unleashed one final unholy gamble, a legion of undead soldiers
Oh my
that
god.
threatens to overwhelm the whole of Europe, battle through three epic campaigns across 15 adrenaline pumping levels, brave the irradiated wastes of Germany solo or fight back to back in online co op. I've never heard of that, but it sounds kind of hilarious.
It sounds real
Fucking weird.
like gimmicky, I
It's
guess.
just
I don't know
fucking
what the right
weird.
word
But
is.
again, it's only a couple dollars, so what do you expect?
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Next story I have for you is unfortunately TwitchCon San Diego has been canceled.
No, are you sure? Is this for real?
So they put out, due to restrictions on large gatherings and ongoing concerns for the health and safety of our community, the Twitch team and the local San Diego community, we have decided to cancel TwitchCon San Diego this fall, Twitch said.
Say it ain't so.
Yeah. I mean, what the fuck did
Like,
everyone
I'm not even
expect? I
surprised.
say, why is everyone? No one cares. At this point, they're like, oh, okay, sounds about right.
I
The
would. It would
other,
have been more newsworthy if they were like, "Yep, we're still
we're
doing it."
doing it. Everyone would be like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, really.
The next story I have is that Cyberpunk 2077 got delayed again. I
No.
know. This came
What the
out
heck?
on the 18th. They announced that it is going to be released now on November 19th. So still not that far, but it's just like, fuck. It got moved from September 17th to November 19th. They did announce this on Twitter. They basically were just like, hey guys, sorry about
Well, that's
this,
dumb.
but it is what it is. Like,
You know what?
I don't know what
This
people
is
are expecting. Again,
right. This is how I feel about. I've said this before, but I feel that way about games that I love. Like, there's a piece of me that's like, "Give me now," and there's another one like, "Don't fuck up this game that
please
I'm
just make
really
it
excited
good.
for.
If it
Take
takes
your
you
time."
longer, just fucking
Right.
do it. That's the
So,
issue, is
yeah.
that they try to rush through and then you're like, this fucking sucks.
And that's kind
So
of, and that was like when Breath of the Wild was first coming out. I was like, "Oh, why do you keep delaying this game?" And then
it was
it
worth
ended
it
up
though.
being amazing. So I'm not, I'm like sad because I have to wait another 2 months, but at the same time, it's totally worth it. I'm
I
sure it will
say,
be.
we're gonna play the shit out of it, so I think it'll be fine.
Yeah, really. I'm so
That's
excited.
the game that I'm like waiting for the most.
hmm
If anyone wants to
hmm
make memes, talk about how Angel and Janelle want to fucking play Cyberpunk 2077, and it's sad that we can't yet.
Yeah, really. I'm ready for it.
Me
I've been
too.
ready. My body's been ready.
The next thing is Pokemon Snap.
Yes,
Finally.
Kay had said something about it at breakfast one morning, and I did not remember about Pokemon Snap, and then she
I
just kind
didn't
of
play
showed
it,
me it.
but a lot of my friends and people that I have grown up with did, so I
hmm
understand the hype. But yeah, it's coming back. The classic N64 game where players capture photos of Pokemon is now coming to Switch. We don't know a lot about the game yet. They just announced it. The the fact that it's also called New Pokemon Snap is really fucking funny. I don't know why it's called New Pokemon Snap, but okay. The basic premise, courtesy of Nintendo, I will read verbatim for you. Travel to unknown islands with beautiful scenery, like lush jungles and sandy beaches. The Pokemon pictures you take there will be used to build your very own Pokemon photo decks. This brand new game brings the gameplay of the 1999 Pokemon Snap game for the Nintendo 64 system to life on the Nintendo Switch system, with unknown islands to discover and different Pokemon to see. Photograph lively wild Pokemon in their natural habitats as you research and explore unknown islands. Journey through a variety of environments, such as beaches and jungles, to capture previously unseen Pokemon behaviors. The photos you can take also be used to fill out your. Why is it word like that? The photos you can take will also be used to fill out your very. Why is it? It's literally worded like that. Let me start from that sentence again.
I'm sorry.
It is
The photos
literally
you
worded
take
like that.
also be used.
I don't
It
know
was
why it's worded like that.
it was probably translated from Japanese, and
It's
somebody
so
just
fucking
accidentally
funny.
missed a word.
Oh, okay.
I would just leave that in. That's fine.
The sentence is supposed to be, the photos you take can also be used to fill out your very own Pokemon photo decks. It literally reads, the photos you take can also be used. Okay, it was whatever. It's worded fucking weird. Anyways, Pokemon Snap is coming out and we're
Well,
all excited.
you're
And the secondary follow up to that is, in addition to Pokemon Snap, another game is coming out called Pokemon Cafe Mix.
I saw information about that on Twitter, but I could not tell because I was just scrolling past it. I could not tell if it was fan art or if it was
No, it's real.
legitimate.
The Pokemon Company announced a new puzzle game called Pokemon Cafe Mix. It's described as free to start experience for both mobile and Nintendo Switch, where players can recruit Pokemon to build their own cafe. The twist is that in order to serve dishes, you first have to complete a puzzle. The setup, again, as courtesy as Nintendo, this is what they wrote. As you complete puzzles to build a world class cafe, you'll face obstacles such as sugar cubes, dollops of whipped cream, and tomatoes. I don't know why.
That is so funny.
One of these things is not like the other. Uh,
Yeah,
use
really.
your puzzle skills to clear them and employ the help of a Pokemon's cafe skills for some extra oomph. In addition to cafe skills, each Pokemon staff member has a specialty. Match a Pokemon's specialty with the dish or drink you are making for bonuses and puzzles. So it's like a puzzle cafe game, and I'll actually play this because I used to love like Diner Dash games and shit.
I love puzzle games. I'm really excited about it.
I am
Now that
too.
I've heard more about it, I'm actually a little bit stoked for it because I love puzzle games and I used to do it wasn't Diner Dash. What was it? I can't remember anymore, but yeah, super fun. And also if it's like Diner Dash but better and also Pokemon,
Right?
I'm down.
I'm so fucking excited. But that is all I have for you. We have kept them for quite a long time at this point. And if you're still listening, you the true OG.
Yeah,
The
really.
true MVP.
But usually after
There's
editing
some
out
good
all of
cutting,
my
yeah. There's a lot of
inability to speak English, like we usually get down to about an hour. So,
yeah, our episodes have been getting longer, but I don't think that's a bad thing. It just depends on
no.
what we're talking about and stuff.
Mhm.
Plus, sometimes we talk a lot about ourselves in the beginning and sometimes we don't, so it just
Mhm.
depends. Thank you guys for joining us in our many different things we were talking about today. We're going to keep talking about people of color that are important just to bring awareness. We're going to
Yeah,
keep
just like short little blips of it, not anything too long because obviously
we already
this is a
talked long
podcast
enough.
about
You have to
yeah,
listen to
and
us long enough.
this is a podcast about video gaming and paranormal, but we also want to highlight super
People
cool badass people who
exactly.
wouldn't get much attention otherwise. So,
But thank you again for listening to us. And Angel, you can find us on.
you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, maybe at Ghoul Gaming Gals. If you just search Ghoul Gaming Gals, regardless of what the actual thing is, I'm sure you'll be able to find us. You can email us at ghoulgaminggals@gmail.com. You can listen to us basically wherever you listen to podcasts now.
Yeah. Hell
All of like
yeah.
yeah, all of like the really popular places anyway. There's some
That's
like
a new development that we're pretty
yeah,
excited about.
yeah. We just got approved from Apple Podcasts, and I did submit to iHeartRadio. I haven't heard back from iHeartRadio yet, but
We'll
I did submit to
see.
them. But yeah, basically Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, Acast, Pocket Cast, you can find, and YouTube. You can find us all on those places.
Yeah, I'm very excited. And thanks again for supporting us. If you have questions, suggestions, or just want to talk to us, please email us or interact with us on social media. And have a great week, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Okay,
Bye.
bye.